What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilk, and I'm coming back today with more Danmachi. Now, I get a question every single time these come up when we're live streaming. Which of these bonds should you choose and why? So I figured we'd talk about it, but we'd also talk about team building for these events, because I'll be honest with you guys, even though if we go in here, it says to use a water team, I feel pretty confident. I've had very, very few of these that I haven't just been able to trounce with just a general good team. Obviously, we've got the light team here from the anniversary last year, and what I've done is I'm just using a blanket single target team that I use all over the place. You see this team all the time. So if you build any decent single target team with a relevant new team, so consisting of the main elements of that are someone that does strength and or magic 100%. In this case, Haruhime does both. Though Haruhime is going to back out, and Lazar is going to come in, and Lazar actually does strength 120% as well. Since everyone else on the team is strength, that kind of works pretty well. If you're mixing strength and magic, then you want someone like Haruhime that does both. If you're doing magic, then you just want somebody that does magic. Hopefully that makes sense. Element number 2 to this team is somebody that does the elemental buff, either 100% or preferably 120%. And Bell fills a really good role here in that regard. Actually, take that back. Is it Bell or is it Fianna? I think it's actually... No, because Fianna fills a whole different role. So what Fianna does is when Fianna comes in, Fianna gets a really ridiculous buff here. She's going to get a light buff 100%. What you're looking for is someone that gets a percentage buff of 80% or better on SA. I've got actually 2 units here, both her and Finn. Now, she's an AoE, Finn is a single target. There's going to be a little bit of a difference and a discrepancy there, but all in, this team still does good work. So, you want a strength and or magic buff, depending on what type of team you're using, sometimes both. That's at least 100%, if not 120%. You want an element damage buff. In this case, we're using light, either 100% or 120%. And you're going to want a few units that get really good percentage buffs. We're looking at either 80% or higher. And basically what that does is per thing that it buffs. So let's say the buff is based on strength. Every time you get a strength buff, you're going to get a strength buff on the adventure side, a strength buff on the assist side. Each time you get an extra 80%. So really when you're looking at that 80% becomes 160. In the case of Fianna, her 100% becomes 200%. So you really got to pay attention there and make sure your teams are built right. Once you have that, you should be good to go. Now in this case, they are weakest to water. I have a unit. I have something that does 0 durability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to my blacksmith here and just go ahead and fix our equipment. I don't know what that would be, but we're just going to go ahead and just quickly repair all real fast. There we go. Hopefully that, and I have a feeling I know what that was, but it doesn't really matter. Let's jump back in here. Now, if you've got a really good single target water team, you definitely can do this. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and just use my light team because number one, it's a team that I told people to spec into during last year's anniversary. And I stand by that. Now, I know a lot of newer people are going to be like, but I don't have those units. That's fine. If you have the elemental buff, and as long as it's not something that's heavily resisted here. So in this case, Thunder is, let's see, actually nothing's resisted here. Physical is down 20%, but since it's only 20%, you can still easily do it with magic. Yeah. And her only negative resistance is 20%. Y'all, I'm telling you right now, you got this. With just about any team, you could trounce this. So, turn 1, I'm going to come in and just go ahead and do my general buff stack. Pretty straightforward. Nothing too crazy there. Number 2, you're going to do their skill 2s. You're just going to go ahead and continue that buff stack. And then basically from skill 3 on, from turn 3 on, you're just going to spam those single target skills. Or basically in the case of most of my units here, I'm going to target, let's see, it doesn't really matter who I target, does it? Let's see, light resistance is down 60% and physical resistance down 85%. Physical resistance down 65%, so I can get rid of Reveria really, really fast. I actually think I'm going to take out Eyes because I think Eyes' buffs are going to be a little more dangerous. So, in the case of Eyes, she's got strength up 10%, all unit resistance up 30%, but it doesn't matter. We're going to be attacking with single target attacks. And with Reveria, no one physical damage. It won't matter where she's going to get hit so many times. It really isn't going to make a difference. And she has AoE resistance as well. So basically, Finn's going to come in and do a big single target attack there, and that's going to buff everybody's SA charge. But every attack's going to be a little bit different no matter who you're using. And just to show you the power of this team, I'm just going to auto-battle the rest of this and just let it go. Because these missions have become incredible. Look how quickly Eyes fell. Now, normally, and I will emphasize normally, with these units, I actually would continue on a little further, but they're just about done. So I'm just going to go ahead and do Finn's SA here and just finish the job. Bada bing, bada boom. She done. 2.5 mil. Turn 6, they're all out. So like I said, any decent single target team, if you follow that methodology, is going to be able to trounce this. They're not really resistant to much of anything. So even if it's like a dark team, if dark team's your best team, whatever's your best single target team, build it up, use those elements I talked about, you will be fine. In fact, you'll probably just blow this away. So let's talk about those units real quickly then, okay? Now, you will need to farm this up pretty well. For me personally, I find a lot of times, since I've got my 15 skip tickets a day, I can just come in here and do my 15 skip tickets, and that would be kind of that. Bam. And I'm actually a little over, and I still haven't run my normal hards or very hards. So I'm going to do that here shortly. But we need to talk about these units. So we're going to look at here Osfi, Eyes, and Reveria. Okay? So normally in these, I think the assist is kind of a no-brainer, right? The assist seems to be, generally speaking, your best option. I keep overhitting album. I'm not used to outfit refinement still. It's been here for like a year now, and I still make that mistake all the time. So, I think Reveria is the assist, but I'll just go ahead and pull them all up anyway. So, with Eyes is one of those units that I know very well. This is a unit that I'm probably going to wind up using mine on, because Eyes does, once again, remember I was talking about those percentage attacks, fire physical attack with ultra penetration rate plus 60% per each target's strength, magic, and physical resistance buffs. Remember I said that actually becomes a compounds based on the adventure and the assist side. So if you're using her in Wargame, this is what's really interesting. If they have a strength buff, a magic buff, and a physical resistance buff, that's 60, 60, 60 on the adventure side. That's 180%. And on the assist side, if they have each one of those buffs, that's a sum total of am I doing the math right here? Yeah, 360. 360% damage all in, and removes strength, magic, and physical resistance buffs. So she is stellar. I love this Eyes unit. She's also really good outside of this, because even at a 180% hit, this is a really substantial hit. This is really, really, really good. There aren't a lot of times where you're going to get all of those, but in Wargames, she is still someone who could be extremely deadly. Now, the only downside to Eyes is numerically, just from the standpoint of her raw numbers here. So let's go ahead and fully ascend her. And fully max limit breaker. Her HP is pretty low, and her endurance is pretty low by the modern standpoint. But by like a standpoint of a unit last year, she is absolutely stellar. Falling off a bit, but I still think a great choice nevertheless. Now, I think, unless I'm mistaken, I think Reveria is the assist, but I could be wrong. There's the Queen of Hearts Reveria. Which one's the Maga Reveria? There's Maga Reveria. So Osfi is the assist. So I don't honestly remember what Reveria has. So foes plural, ultra wind magic attack damage 80% per each target's magic resistance buff skill. So once again, if they have a magic resistance buff on the adventurer side and on the assist side, she's going to knock him for a loop. Now, the only downside of these units, and this is the part that gets a little weird, is that you can't really help a lot of that, because you're not going to be able to give them a magic resistance buff. So she's one of these units, and same with eyes, that you have to rely on those people buffing themselves in order to do this. But these really were designed for war games. So either one of those two units, very good. The thing I like about Reveria from back in the day is that magic and wind attack damage are up 80%. In the modern era, that's not as impressive as it was when it first dropped, but I do feel like Reveria is still very, very, very viable. Other things she does, she's kind of built upside down here. So allies fast null physical attack times 1. That's what you saw at the event. Magic and wind attack damage plus 40% for 1 turn. Agility 35%, and damage received type all targets down 35%. So she's got a lot of good stuff there. Fast super wind magic attack with ultra critical rate, counter rate, and heal rate down 50%. That's actually really good in war game. Magic resist down 30% for 4 turns, and sell 3 additional actions. Mid wind magic attack, which I believe the mid was up from low. I could be wrong in that, but I think that was the rebalance she got. Now, Osvi is our assist, and I'm going to be totally frank here. I do not remember what she does, but let's pull her up here. There she is. I love Osvi's art. Osvi's art is fantastic here. So HP is 110. Magic attack is 648, and that's really the 2 stats you need to worry about there. Agility actually isn't bad at 401. Dex is pretty good at 404, but she's all about that magic stat and that HP stat. Okay, so allies magic and Dex plus 20%. Slow resist 100% for all allies, so she gets some really good stats there. The downside is magic is now, like, really on a modern scale, magic 25% is more what you're looking for. Self 3 instant effects when physically attacked allies, physical resist plus 40% for 2 turns. Now, this is a really, really, really solid skill. So this is a rare situation where I think all 3 units are really good. The downside to Osvi is that her magic stat is kind of out of meta. She's not as good as she used to be. But I would still argue with her physical resist plus 40% on all allies, mind you. And when it says 3 instant effects, that means usually one of those can go off per turn. You see, it says once per turn. So turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Every time she's attacked, she's going to apply that. And it's for 2 turns, which means she can go a whole turn without getting attacked and then reapply it. So Osvi is still exceptional. I would honestly say, though, with Osvi, the only situation in which I would see choosing Osvi over one of the adventurers is if you have Osvi plus 4, or you have enough surplus prism bonds that you can reasonably justify putting him in a year plus old. I think she's a year old. I don't think she's quite 2 years old yet. But that you could reasonably justify putting him in a unit that's this far out of meta. And I don't think that's very smart. I think, honestly, for me and in my opinion, Osvi great, but only choose her if your current Osvi is plus 4 and you really want to use that instant effect. That's the only time I could see her being chosen. Other than that, me personally, I'm going for eyes, but if you're more magic and you think the magic wind unit is going to help you out more, go with Reveria. Really comes down to, for me, eyes is a bond that I really need. I think one more will actually finish my unit. If Reveria is one more will finish your unit, or you just need that for the Wind Magic team, which I wouldn't blame you because Wind Magic did just get a recent big buff, then choose that. But in this case, I think it's a rare exception where I'd say go with the Adventurer over the Assist. And I almost never say that. I really almost never say that. But the exception to the rule would be if your Osvi is plus 4 and you're going to max limit breaker. That's going to be my opinion, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Maybe a bit of a hot take. But I'll catch you guys on the next DanMeMo video.